fashion expert on everything. He's got a brand new podcast called After Dark with Dr. Drew. Give it up for Dr. Drew Pinsky.
Wendy has the best audience in television, period.
Right?
I mean, you guys are amazing. And by the way, you're showing the love to Wendy. How nice is that? Right?
I know.
Fantastic.
I feel like you can probably prescribe somebody to come to this audience and you can heal anything.
Well, it certainly would be a good way to elevate mood. I mean, if you're manic, might not be so good, but if you're depressed, yeah, with the way to go.
So congrats on the new podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
What is it about? I mean, After Dark. When you say After Dark, I'm like, ooh, sexy.
It's kind of a reboot of Loveline a little bit. It's with Tom Segura and Christina P., his wife. They got this Your Mom's House podcast, and they embarrassed the hell out of me on that podcast, and that was very popular. So they spin that off, and we sort of do a very intensive look at comedians' brains and how they work. So it's very intense.
Because it's dark. It feels dark.
Well, it's funny. It's funny as can be, but it gets dark because Bobby Lee's coming up next week. And man, that guy's got a story. I mean, it was breathtaking, and I was so privileged for him to tell it. And then we look at crazy videos and we take calls and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little kind of a reboot of Loveline, kind of. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's so nice to have you here. After we, who are not professionals, we talk about hot topics, but it's really great to get your take on it because you are a professional, and we are professional doing anything but what you do. So what's your take on the Jussie Smollett story?
Yeah, so everyone's wondering, why would he do this?
Right.
And Carla, you mentioned, you said allegedly, we got to always frame it. And they claim they're going to put up a big defense for him, but the police put this in front of a grand jury. They're pretty certain they got their man.
Right.
They wouldn't be going so adamantly out and saying what they're saying if they really didn't believe they had the goods on this guy.
Right.
So the question becomes, and by the way, another point, you mentioned the letter that he wrote to himself. That's his biggest problem. Because that's a federal offense to send that stuff. And it's what they call a white envelope sort of a letter, which is a terror threat. You're putting white powder in there, a white powder envelope. And I mean, what was he thinking?
Right.
So what was he thinking? So one possibility is, I mean, there's always a possibility that he has very strong political views. He feels it's his job to be disruptive in some fashion. I mean, that's possible, right?
Okay.
I don't think so. I've not heard that from him before.
Okay.
Another possibility is that there's a major psychiatric problem here, right? But one of the first moves that defense lawyers make is if somebody's like that, they put them in a psychiatric hospital.
Okay.
Now, to go in the hospital, you have to meet criteria for admission. The fact that he's not been admitted tells you a lot.
That he's not crazy, he's something else.
He's not crazy.
So what's the something else?
The something else, from my standpoint, goes in the zone of sort of personality problems, you know, and narcissism, those sorts of disorders, right? And those are very common today. They are not super amenable to treatment, which is unfortunate. But listen, I have a specific take on this thing. I really do, which is, look, yesterday, as someone on this show said, let's pray for this young man.
Right.
I thought that was the right attitude to take about this.
Absolutely.
And there's somebody I'm angry with. I am angry with the press for going out with a narrative breathlessly before they had the facts. They should take a good hard look at themselves for that. And let's all the rest of us, speaking of taking a good hard look at ourselves, let's go back to what I think we were trying to do as a society here, get ourselves together and look at the implicit bias and racism in each of our hearts. In each of our hearts.
Right.
It's in mine.
Right.
And I'm surprised when it comes out. But let's pay attention to that. Let's study our history so you know what other people are telling you when they tell you they're having an experience. It's your job to understand the history of this country so you can appreciate what they're telling you. So it's empathy we've lost, right?
Empathy.
You and I are going to lead the way on this.
We're going to lead the way. We're going to lead the way. Okay. So let's talk about Lady Gaga, who broke off her engagement.
Yes.
And she talked about how it's hard to balance love with success.
Right.
And I've said, people are like, how do you balance it all? I'm like, I don't. Something will suffer. What are your thoughts on that?
It's exactly right. Something will suffer. I kind of had this sneaking suspicion. Listen, peace and love, I don't know her. But I had this feeling that she was, no, really, I had this feeling she was falling in love with Bradley Cooper, didn't you? Not that she had designs or intentions, but that these very strong feelings were emerging. And she probably said to herself, geez, if I'm away all the time, I'm on these sets, I'm in having these experiences, I can't commit to this guy if I'm having feelings like this.
Right. So do you think...
I think it's a good thing.
Okay, that she's acknowledging that. But do you think that being that she's a new actress, that maybe some of those feelings were transferred, almost like with a psychologist, or like being the actor?
Yeah, like what's called erotic transference. But I don't think I don't think it's that so much. I think that if you've ever been on a movie set and you've ever been acting with people, it's very intense. It's very intimate. It's prolonged over long periods of time, and feelings emerge. And when relationships actually develop, that's why they don't last, because they're fantasies. They're not real. But again, just the fact that she had these feelings and realizing she's on the road all the time, wisely went, I'm not sure I'm ready for this.
That was really good, because she could have just said yes because she made a commitment,
Yes,
and
yes,
and then.
I say it's wise.
Right.
But to your point, you brought up at the beginning, is she going to one day suffer as a result? That's the sad part. Women. It makes me upset how women have to make choices and suffer. Yeah. I think doing things like getting control over your fertility, freezing eggs, all kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of that, so women can have the freedom to engage in the career choices they want to make.
I was 44 and I had a cat. Okay. So Justin Bieber and Hailey Baldwin, they're in marriage counseling after a few months of marriage.
Right.
Okay, is that giving reasons for concern, or is this smart? Should they have done it before they got married?
You guys are laughing at them. Laughing at us? So, well, I think you might think, oh my God, emergency, they're already in therapy. I think another very good sign.
Yes.
I would have said they should have gone before they got married, premarital therapy.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But he has said something about having been sexually compulsive, right? Did you get that history?
Yes, yes.
And then he became abstinent.
Oh my God, that's Ruta Tuta.
It's exactly right. It's unhealthy. It's unhealthy to go from compulsive and addicted to anorectic, right? That's flip sides of the same coin. That's not health, which is in the middle. He needs to achieve that health. If he had come to somebody for treatment before marriage, it would have been better. But the fact is, he's made a commitment. He's living up to that commitment. God bless him for that.
Right.
And he's trying to establish health. So I think it's a very good story. I'm very pleased with it.
Bieber, so good. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Dina Lohan. So. She didn't meet her boyfriend for 5 years, and people were saying, oh, he's fishing, and it wasn't real.
But it's weird, though,
Yeah, they were
right?
online for 5 years, and now they're together. What are your thoughts?
I mean, 5 years online with no contact.
And they weren't on a desert island. I mean, it wasn't like...
I know they could have seen each other, right? But I think they were probably fearful of seeing each other would have spoiled it, right, somehow. And when people have these sort of pseudo-intimacies across a phone or across an internet, whatever, that's usually a fear of intimacy, right? It's like a way of sustaining a pseudo-intimacy that you can control. But humans need bodies in space. We do, to be healthy. And so now they're going to be together in proximity, and we'll see. We'll see.
Right. Because they could have created whatever the situation.
Fantasy, right? They're living a fantasy. They're projecting a fantasy out into this pseudo-intimacy that they're having. It's not real. Whatever you think, the research has shown this over and over again. What people maintain on the internet is not real. It's not an intimate relationship. It's better than nothing for some people that are lonely or need of contact, but it's not what two humans in space create.
Right. We talked a couple days ago about the Kardashians trademarking their kids' names. I mean, are they kids or are they commodities? Is this bad parenting?
Well, it certainly is consistent with the family culture, isn't it? Because grandma did that with the kids and it worked out okay, so I can
Do we know that yet?
That's what I'm saying. Okay, depending on how you examine okay or define it.
The third generation.
Of brands. But the fact that that's what we're talking about here. That's the insanity. We're calling our children brands. And that's where the part we all go, the record scratch, right? Like, oh, come on, are we kidding? Are you kidding here? But look, it's their family culture. They've been successful at this in the past. We all are participating in this. If you don't want this to happen, everybody, don't participate. Don't buy the baby products that are branded with their stuff. And maybe they'll go back to just being, there's a really important point in here, which is that humans need a simple life to be healthy. We need to be simple. We need to just keep it simple, just all the basics. So your grandma taught you.
Can you really put that toothpaste back in the tube?
As a culture?
No, as that family.
No.
Right.
Probably not.
It is what it is now.
It's just toothpaste all over.
Rob's the only one who can get out. Rob's the only one. Dr. Drew, thank you for being here.
Really fun. Such a privilege.
It's so great. I would love to talk more with you, but we could do that offline. I'll pay for it. Check out the podcast After Dark with Dr. Drew and all of his other projects at drdrew.com.